Hello, today is July 19th, 2013. My name is Jason Ross, and I'm happy to be moderating this evening's LaRouche Webcast. This has been a particularly momentous week in Washington, D.C., as the entire LPAC Policy Committee has been here in town, and it's certainly safe to say that Glass-Stea is on everybody's minds in the Capitol. The format for this evening, we have a number of questions that have come in, and Mr. LaRouche has asked that we begin with a question that came in from an institutional source, which will be followed with discussion from questioners here in the audience. So the first question to you, Mr. LaRouche, is that the questioner asks, your Political Action Committee is in the midst of a major deployment into Capitol Hill on behalf of Glass-Stea. The issue has become a major point of attention in the recent weeks, both here in the United States and in Europe. In fact, the British media has given even greater positive attention to this than have the American media. And there is also strong motion for Glass-Stea in Italy. Could you please give your assessment of where the fight stands at this moment? Clearly, the Wall Street crowd is in a mobilization to stop Glass-Stea, seeing this as an existential issue. This is a serious uphill fight that you're leading. Where do we stand?
As things stand as of now, it will probably be during the coming 2 weeks we will have a picture of exactly how this is going to work out. Now, what's on our side is reality. But Wall Street has a long record of being unreal, and therefore they're counting on unreality for their cause. However, at the same time, there are lots of uncertainties in this process. And the fact that we have 2 more weeks estimated as of now for the continuation of the contesting of this mission, we now have a fair possibility of winning. This is no longer out from left field. This is in the center of the ring. And it will be persisting. Now, the options are, of course, is that if we don't get Glass-Stea through, you can forget the United States and Europe for an indefinite period to come, even possibly forever. Because if this, what the intention is, and this is what you have to really understand, the intention is to, first of all, defeat Glass-Stea. That's the first objective. Once Glass-Stea is rejected, or were rejected, then the next measure would be what is not advertised. There's no way in which the trans-European area can possibly effect a real bailout of themselves. They're hopelessly bankrupt. Their answer is, once Glass-Stea were eliminated, then they would just simply shut off all payments to their debtors, which would mean you would throw a major part of the population of Europe and the United States in particular to sit on the streets and starve to death. And that is exactly what the intention is. If you look at this thing carefully, you don't have to have information on the inside to see what is threatened. All you have to do is look at the figures. The amount of debt, the rate of increase of that debt, of the Wall Street kind of debt, there's no possible way that they can avoid, as a Wall Street gang, they can avoid discrediting all of their debts to people generally. That means that the people will be shut off from all sustenance, which means mass death coming on fast inside the United States and also Western and Central Europe in large degree. So the point is we now have no real choice but Glass-Stea. Glass-Stea is the only thing which will enable us to defend the nation against what the intentions are of the Wall Street and related forces. Now there are other factors in this. You have an English factor, which is saying, well, let's not collapse everything. Let's save something in England or in a few other places. So it's a complex process, and there are no definite answers, questions and answers. What you're in a situation where objectively, there's no way in which the current debt and growth of debt inside the United States in particular can be sustained much longer. And if Glass-Steagall were defeated, then Dodd-Frank and similar kinds of monstrosities would come in, and the effect would be the cancellation of those obligations. Because there's no way that this machinery that's now functioning as Wall Street could actually ever sustain the unpayable debts which they've now accrued. And that's where we stand. So therefore, the coming weeks may determine whether the people in the United States are going to live or die. That's where we are. And that's what the question really implies, is that. There is no possible way. We have to realize that the debt, the Wall Street debt, and similar kind of debt, could never be covered by obligations. Never. Is past that and going further. So therefore, the option is they stall everything as long as they can. Prevent Glass-Steagall from being introduced. And if they do that, then they cancel the debts. Now that Glass-Steagall has no claim on them, they will simply cancel the debts of Wall Street and similar forces around the world. And what will happen to the people? The obligations to the people simply don't exist because the debt is repudiated. And that's the situation we're in now. That is the reason, not why because people understand what's happening, but because they have a feeling of what is happening. They have a sense of what is happening. And they see no possibility of anybody doing anything to help them. And therefore they're trying to deny the threat, which is what people do. They try to say, no, everything's going to be all right, isn't it? Everything is going to be all right, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Huh? And then, if Glass-Steagall comes through, rejoicing. And Wall Street is bankrupted. So, who does that hurt? Nobody of importance.